Bienvenue, bonjour, bienvenue en salle de presse pour notre rendez-vous quotidien en ligne et en direct sur EBS. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le mardi 15 septembre. As you know, the college meeting is due to start shortly, so we will limit exceptionally this midday briefing to 45 minutes. I hope you will understand. As promised yesterday, I would like to give you an overview of the points on the agenda of the college meeting. First, Executive Vice President Valdis Dombrovskis and Commissioner Paolo Gentiloni will present the annual Sustainable Growth Strategy 2021. Commissioners will also discuss a package in the remit of the European Green Deal with three components, which will be presented by Executive Vice President Frans Timmermans and Commissioner Kadri Simpson. A communication stepping up Europe's 2030 climate ambition, investing in a climate-neutral future for the benefit of our people, an amended proposal for a regulation for a European climate law, and a communication on an EU-wide assessment of national energy and climate plans. Then the College will also hear a presentation from Executive Vice President Margrethe Vestager on guidelines on certain state aid measures in the context of the system for greenhouse gas emission allowance trading post-2021. In addition, Executive Vice President Mrs. Vestager and Commissioner Thierry Breton will present a digital package to their colleagues consisting of two parts: a proposal for a council regulation on establishing the European high-performance computing joint undertaking, and a Commission recommendation on a common union toolbox for reducing the cost of deploying very high-capacity networks. Finally, the Commissioners will discuss an action plan against racism 2020-2025, on which they will hear from Vice President Vera Jourova and Commissioner Helena Dalli. Now, it's important to stress that all these points will be adopted over the coming days through the so-called finalization procedure, and they will be communicated upon as they are adopted. Let me remind you that President von der Leyen will give her first State of the Union speech in the European Parliament plenary tomorrow morning, which is why we will not be holding a daily online press briefing tomorrow. Now I'd like to ask Marta to join me on the podium for an announcement on a report on employment and social developments we have published today. Marta.
Merci Eric, bonjour tout le monde. Les services de la Commission ont publié aujourd'hui l'édition 2020 du rapport annuel sur l'évolution de l'emploi et de la situation sociale en Europe. Cette année, il est consacré au thème de l'équité sociale et de la solidarité. Le rapport démontre que pour réparer les dommages causés par la pandémie du Covid et préparer les économies et les sociétés aux changements structurels, l'Union ainsi que les États membres doivent saisir pleinement les opportunités offertes par les transitions vers une économie verte et numérique et intégrer l'inclusion, la solidarité et la résilience dans la conception de toutes les politiques. Garantir une reprise durable, inclusive et équitable pour tous est un objectif clé de l'action de la Commission qui contribuera à renforcer la résilience sociale à long terme. Et c'est bien sûr avec cet objectif que la Commission a présenté un grand plan de relance avec le nouvel instrument Next Generation EU qui s'inscrit dans un budget à long terme puissant, moderne et révisé pour l'Union. Je vous invite bien sûr à lire notre communiqué de presse sur ce rapport et bien sûr le rapport lui-même qui ont été publiés aujourd'hui. Merci.
Merci beaucoup Marta. J'invite maintenant Balázs pour une mise à jour du soutien offert à la Grèce dans le contexte de l'incendie dans le camp de Moria.
Merci Eric. Bonjour. Donc, les États membres de l'Union européenne continuent de faire preuve de solidarité envers la Grèce à la suite de l'incendie qui a frappé le camp de réfugiés de Moria. Donc, depuis hier, 4 nouveaux pays ont offert de l'aide matérielle à la Grèce à travers le mécanisme de protection civile de l'Union européenne. Donc, il s'agit de la Slovaquie, la Hongrie, la France et la Slovénie. Ces offres comprennent notamment des tentes, des couvertures et des sacs de couchage. Cela s'ajoute bien évidemment à l'aide déjà fournie cette semaine par 6 autres États membres à travers le mécanisme. Le Centre de coordination des interventions d'urgence de la Commission reste en contact régulier avec les autorités grecques pour suivre de près la situation et faciliter l'acheminement de l'aide de l'Union européenne.
Merci Balázs. Cela clôture nos annonces pour aujourd'hui et nous pouvons passer à vos questions. Je passe la parole à Odile, qui a visiblement une question sur la suite du sommet UE-Chine d'hier, la vidéoconférence.
Oui, merci Eric. Je sais que ce n'était pas au programme du sommet parce que j'ai suivi aussi la conférence de presse, mais en ce qui concerne les relations entre l'Union européenne, la Chine et l'Afrique, je m'interroge. Il y a de plus en plus d'étudiants africains, je crois qu'il y a plus de 80 000 maintenant, et avec de nombreuses bourses aussi, qui doivent augmenter jusqu'à 50 000 même en 2021. Et parallèlement, on sait que les étudiants chinois viennent en priorité aux États-Unis, à peu près pour 51%, au Royaume-Uni pour 32%, c'est-à-dire ça représente 120 000 étudiants à peu près. Et ensuite, en ce qui concerne l'Allemagne, à peu près 8%, la France, à peu près 6%. Bon, mais justement, avec ce qui se passe aussi avec le Brexit, est-ce qu'on n'aurait pas intérêt à susciter davantage d'appels d'étudiants chinois à venir dans les 27 et peut-être aussi à essayer d'accroître le nombre de bourses qui leur permet de venir. Merci.
Merci pour ta question et le panorama que tu nous as donné des étudiants chinois partant faire des études à l'étranger et leur répartition géographique. Je suis maintenant un peu embarrassé pour savoir à qui passer cette question, mais je pense, si tu es d'accord, que nous allons revenir vers toi bilatéralement sur cette question, car je ne pense pas que nous soyons en mesure, là, maintenant, d'y répondre sur le podium. Comme tu l'as dit très justement, ça n'était pas un des points à l'ordre du jour de la vidéoconférence d'hier, et cela concerne a priori soit mes collègues qui s'occupent des relations avec la Chine, soit des collègues qui s'occupent de tout ce qui est éducation, sans oublier le fait que, bien entendu, en grande partie, les bourses sont une compétence nationale, même s'il y a aussi des mécanismes au niveau européen. Donc nous reviendrons vers toi bilatéralement sur cette question. Je voudrais voir s'il y a d'autres questions de suivi sur la Chine, justement. Ne gardez votre main levée que dans ce cas. Et je vois que Jack, you have a question on this. No? OK. David.
Oui, merci Eric et bonjour. C'est un follow-up à ma question d'hier parce que je n'ai pas eu de réponse à propos de cette société chinoise qui a recueilli des millions d'informations de citoyens européens dans le reste du monde, de leurs familles, etc., avec une profilation. Le Daily Telegraph avait un long article, plusieurs médias aussi, et je voulais savoir si vous avez une réaction et si on peut faire confiance à un partenaire comme la Chine qui utilise ces méthodes-là, vu qu'un des clients de cette société, c'était justement le gouvernement chinois. Merci.
Aujourd'hui, mais comme il s'agit d'une question chinoise, je vais passer la parole à Nabila pour voir si elle a des éléments de réponse pour toi. Nabila?
Oui, bonjour David. En effet, je suis désolée de ne pas être revenue vers toi. En fait, la question est plus pour Christiane, qui lui devrait avoir ta réponse.
Alors, je me trompe de porte-parole. Christiane.
Oui, bonjour Eric. Alors David, on ne peut pas vraiment faire un commentaire sur le cas concret, mais ce que je peux dire, que dans l'Union européenne, la protection des données est un droit fondamental et la GDPR, the GDPR also applies to, sorry, it's a bit technical, so I'm going to continue in English, applies to processing activities by data controllers or processors established outside the EU if they offer goods and services in the Union to Europeans or to people residing in the EU, or if they are monitoring or collecting data of people in the EU. If this takes, if they're monitoring behavior of people residing in the EU. So any of such processing of personal data needs to comply with European data protection rules. But again, this is a statement in general terms. When it comes to an individual case, it would always be for the relevant data protection authorities to look into it.
Merci Christian. Je pense que donc le point central est que, en tout cas, la base juridique RGPD s'applique. Elle n'est pas nécessairement évidemment facile à mettre en œuvre. Nous le concevons parfaitement. Sur le cas d'espèce, il ne nous est pas possible de dire des choses plus précises pour le moment. Mais voilà la situation d'ensemble qui s'applique. En ce qui concerne la situation ou la question que tu posais sur la relation de confiance qui peut ou ne peut pas exister avec la Chine, je te renverrai aux propos tenus par la présidente von der Leyen hier sur ce sujet, et notamment sur le fait que l'Union européenne ne transigerait pas en ce qui concerne la sécurité de ces réseaux et de l'utilisation qui est faite par les acteurs du numérique en général. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour nous sur le suivi du sommet UE-Chine? Fabio, a question on this issue. We cannot hear you, Fabio. You with the settings of your microphone. Okay, while you try to solve it, we will move to Mose.
Yes, thank you, Eric. I have also a very small follow-up question to EU-China leaders meeting yesterday. That concerns what Council President Michel said, that the EU leaders had raised the possibility of visits by observers or European diplomats in some of the regions in China where EU has criticized human rights situation and the treatment of minorities. I wonder how realistic that can be, considering that China probably considers that as some kind of interference in domestic affairs. Is this an issue which will be further discussed at human rights dialogue in China later on this year? Thank you.
Thank you, Mose. I pass the floor to Nabila.
Thank you, Mose, for your question. The EU calls urgently for an independent, objective, impartial, and transparent assessment of arbitrary detentions, enforced disappearance, absence of judicial oversight, restrictions on freedom of expression, of thought, of conscience and religion, and the right to education and the freedom of movement of minorities in Xinjiang. We expect China to allow meaningful access to Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region for independent observers, including for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. This is what I have to say on the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Nabila. Other questions for us on China? Lorenzo, ta main est levée. Je suppose que c'est sur la Chine. Si oui, vas-y. Lorenzo, n'oublie pas d'appuyer sur le bouton Speak. Alors, nous semblons avoir quelques difficultés aujourd'hui. Oui, ça y est. Vas-y, Lorenzo. Eh bien, ça ne marche pas. Y a-t-il d'autres questions sur la Chine? Je n'en vois pas. Nous passons donc à un autre sujet et je reviens vers Fabio. Fabio, you have a question about climate law? Fabio, go ahead. No, repassez-moi le micro, s'il vous plaît. I'm sorry, your mic is not working, Fabio. You'll have to ask the question bilaterally. Apologies for that. It's your settings. Right, let us move then to Tommaso. You had a question. Tommaso, you have the floor. Today is a difficult day, I think.
Oh, bonjour. Vous m'entendez?
Bon, oui, vas-y, Tommaso.
Ah oui, merci. C'est une question sur l'Italie, parce que j'ai lu que l'entreprise italienne Atlantia aurait écrit une autre lettre au vice-président de la commission Valdis Dombrovskis, dans laquelle ils disent que le gouvernement italien aurait violé les règles européennes par rapport à l'entrée dans le capital de Cassa Depositi e Prestiti. Je me demande si vous pouvez confirmer que vous avez reçu cette lettre. Et aussi, est-ce que le gouvernement italien s'est trompé d'adresse parce que maintenant, Dombrovskis est commissaire au commerce, si je ne me trompe pas. Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Oui, alors c'est une question pour Dan. Et de manière générale, les services de la Commission sont suffisamment flexibles pour que si une lettre arrive chez un commissaire mais concerne un autre commissaire ou un autre service, le courrier suive. Dan.
On espère au moins. Ciao Tommaso. Je pense que j'ai déjà eu l'occasion de répondre à cette question il y a quelques semaines maintenant et je peux confirmer encore une fois que nous avons reçu plusieurs lettres sur ces sujets et que les services de la Commission regardent maintenant et sont en train de regarder et étudier ces lettres. Sur la lettre spécifique que tu as mentionnée, je dois revenir vers toi pour confirmer cette lettre. Mais en tout cas, comme j'ai énoncé aussi la dernière fois, la Commission va faire une analyse sur tous les cas en général. Ça, c'est tout ce que je peux dire à ce stade.
Merci. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour Dan sur ce sujet? Jack, is it on this issue? Go ahead. Press speak.
The Commission yesterday launched a consultation on equivalence for central counterparties in London, in the UK. My question was a simple factual one. When does that consultation end? What date have you set for member states to respond by? And therefore, when is your expected date, if all goes well, for adoption of that legal instrument?
Hi, Jack. Yes, indeed, we got your question just before midday, and we are still checking with our services the exact amount of days that this consultation is ongoing for. Now, I can confirm again that, yes, we did launch the adoption process yesterday by beginning this consultation. There are different types of consultation processes, so please allow me to get back to you on that question. More generally, on the context, you'll know what we're doing here. This is a time-limited decision. It was announced already in our readiness communication in July. This is about financial stability risks and addressing those risks for a short time-limited period. So allow me to get back to you on the consultation itself.
Thank you. This allows us to segue nicely and smoothly to the question by Verena, apparently on Brexit. Verena, you have the floor.
Hi, thanks for giving me the question. I'm Verena with the German Press Agency. On yesterday's developments in London, the EU has asked the UK to recall its plans in breach of the withdrawal agreement promptly, and at least by the end of September. Instead, London is pushing ahead with it. Are you in touch with the UK to try to convince them to abstain from breaching the withdrawal agreement? And do those British plans, as claimed by Prime Minister Johnson, actually make it more likely to get a trade agreement with the EU? Thanks.
Thank you, Verena. Well, in fact, as you well know, we were very much in contact with the British authorities. Vice President Šefčovič even went to London extremely quickly in order to seek clarifications and make the views of the EU known on this issue, which led to the statement which you have seen, and to the deadline which was set for the UK to withdraw the provisions from the draft internal market bill. This is what we expect from the United Kingdom. We have made our views extremely clear. We're not going to speculate on anything in the meantime. We are waiting to see the developments in London on this issue. Okay, are there other questions for Dan today? I do not see any, so we will try to come back to the question by Lorenzo first. Lorenzo, you have the floor. Yes, we can hear you, I think. No?
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, my question was of the EU-China summit yesterday. And something that President von der Leyen said during the press conference is a clarification, actually, that I'm asking you, because she said that there are 3 agreements, one on the discipline of the state enterprises, one on technology transfer, and one on transparency of subsidies. And I have seen no traces of this agreement. I mean, did she mean we are working at 3 agreements on this, or are these agreements already there? Thanks.
No, what she was referring to is issues that are being discussed in the context of the negotiation on the comprehensive agreement on investment. These are not separate from those discussions. They are not discussions for separate agreements. They are part of the overall discussion on the comprehensive agreement on investment. I hope that clarifies the situation for you. If you have more questions on this, you can contact Miriam for the technical dimensions of the file. Okay, now Atanasio has been waiting for the floor for a long time, so I go to him. Atanasio. You disconnected yourself, or somehow you were disconnected, I should say. So we will come back to you later if time allows. In the meantime, Fabio, I see that you could not connect, but you had a question related to the climate law. Last week, the Environment Committee has increased the target 2030 and has proposed a new middle target for 2040. So the question is, what will the position of the Commission in the next trilogue be? Tim, although I think it's pretty obvious that this is a file which, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, is on the college agenda for today and on which we will report later in the week. Tim.
Yeah, as you say, Eric, I think I'm going to have to disappoint Fabio a bit today. Obviously, we're following very closely the discussions that go on with the co-legislators. This is a proposal that the Commission put on the table earlier this year, as you know, which has been debated and voted in committee, actually, in the Parliament this week. We're still waiting on the plenary vote, as you know. Council discussions are ongoing, and we are in regular contact and following this discussion, and we'll be ready to engage very constructively, as we always do, with our institutional partners. As Eric says, we'll also be looking this week into the climate issue during the college, so we might well have some more thoughts for you later in the week.
Thank you. I don't think we'll be able to say anything else on the issue of climate today in view of the discussions in college. So we will move directly to other issues, also in view of the time. I see that Philippe has his hand raised. I've noted some other questions from the chat. Philippe, à toi.
Une semaine de la présentation, ça marche?
On a raté le début de ta question, s'il te plaît. Si tu pouvais recommencer.
Oui, donc bonjour Philippe Dussoir. Je voudrais revenir sur l'annonce hier par la présidente de l'anticipation d'une semaine de la présentation de la réforme de la politique migratoire. Tout simplement pour en quelque sorte un teaser, nous dire ce qu'il y a de nouveau à nous livrer en termes de périmètre de la réforme qui sera proposée, quelle est son ambition et quel est le lien éventuellement aussi avec la situation d'urgence que l'on observe aujourd'hui à Moria. Merci.
C'est très sympa de nous demander de faire des teasers sur les propositions de la Commission à venir. Ça sera peut-être une nouvelle pratique en salle de presse. Je ne suis pas sûr que nous soyons vraiment en mesure d'y répondre, mais je vais quand même passer la parole à Adalbert sur ce dossier, étant donné son importance.
Bonjour, bonjour Philippe, et merci de me donner effectivement cette opportunité encore une fois de donner de rappeler quelques éléments que j'ai déjà eu l'occasion de citer dans la salle de presse sur le nouveau pacte sur la migration et l'asile, qui sera une opportunité pour la Commission d'offrir un nouveau départ pour la réforme de la politique de migration et d'asile en Europe. Ce sera une politique globale qui va englober différents aspects de la question migratoire, à la fois concernant la gestion des migrations, mais aussi l'asile, les frontières, la question des retours, et avec un aspect très important concernant le côté externe de la politique migratoire, donc coopération avec les pays tiers. Ce sera aussi une approche qui permettra de retrouver l'unité en Europe concernant la question des migrations. Et en ce qui concerne le lien éventuel avec les urgences auxquelles nous faisons face actuellement, et en particulier en Grèce, je pense que tu vas devoir attendre la présentation du pacte pour savoir exactement de quelle manière le pacte va s'occuper de ces questions-là. Mais évidemment, il y aura un aspect concernant à la fois la prévention de ce genre de situation et éventuellement la gestion des situations d'urgence.
Merci. Je sais que Nick a aussi une question sur la migration. Nick, you have the floor.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Yes, we can. Go ahead. Thank you. Yes. We await the detail next week of the migration policy, but In simple terms, how would this either improve lives or save lives? And also, what does the Commission say to those, including charities, who say this has been far too long in bringing this forward? Thank you.
Hello, Nick, and thanks a lot. We are currently finalizing the press material that will explain in very simple and accessible terms exactly what changes and what improvements the new policy will bring to all the different players of migration policy. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to be patient for another week or so with this. When it comes to the longer-term perspective on the management of migration in Europe, I can perhaps simply recall that the Commission has not been sitting on its hands for the last since the beginning of the mandate, and that we've been acting very decisively together with the member states to improve the situation on the ground, and that in many different ways. And perhaps the most telling number that I can quote is the fact that the number of residents of the Moria camp that recently burnt in Greece was reduced from approximately 25,000 in March to only slightly above 12,000 in the last 6 months. So our action on this has been very strong and very decisive.
Thank you. Thank you. Nick, we may still see you.
Is it possible to have a follow-up, Eric, very quickly?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead. I was just going to ask, do you think that the COVID crisis has focused minds or actually makes this issue even more dangerous in 2020?
Look, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by this issue being even more dangerous. Of course, like for all or almost all European policies, the coronavirus has had an impact on migration policy, and it is something that is a development from which we need to also draw lessons and integrate them into our policy making. However, I'm not going to go into the detail on how exactly the coronavirus is affecting the policy developments that we will present next week.
Thank you very much, Adalbert. I would now like to change subjects and move to Anders, who has a question on the employment report. Thank you. Anders, you have the floor.
Minimum wages in relation to the report on unemployment and social developments that was released 20 minutes ago. It says, among a lot of other things, of course, and I quote,
Anders, apologies, but you started speaking so quickly that your mic was not turned on, and we missed the whole beginning of your question. So could you please first turn on your mic, and once we are sure that we can hear you, that you ask your question. Sorry for that. Let's try again.
You can hear me now?
Yes, absolutely. Now you can start.
Thank you. I have a question on minimum wages in relation to this report that was released today, 20 minutes ago. It says, among lots of other things, and I quote from it, more centralized and coordinated systems tend to produce more wage equality. Some of the more centralized and coordinated systems have tended to moderate wage growth in an endeavor to promote international wages competitiveness and to reduce unemployment after a financial crisis. End of quote. Does this mean that the Commission favors a centralized system of minimum wages or over a collective bargaining system? And could you say anything about this issue, centralized versus collective bargaining, in relation to this report?
I can already say, without even waiting for Marta, that it certainly does not mean that the Commission prefers a centralized system over a system of collective bargaining. I think that has been made clear time and time again. Marta, I'm sure you will make this even more specific and clear.
Thank you very much indeed. I can only confirm what Eric just said. I mean, first of all, perhaps to clarify the nature of this report, this is an analytical report prepared by the Commission services. This is not, a policy document as such. It only provides, evidence-based and research analysis to underpin a lot of the policy measures that will be announced or have been announced by the Commission. On the issue of minimum wages, as you know, we have now closed the second stage consultation with the social partners, and we will now analyze thoroughly the responses received. But of course, throughout all this process, in the first consultation, the second consultation, we have always stressed that we fully support collective wage bargaining agreements, and we fully intend to support them further with our initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. Are there other questions for Marta on this issue? Anders, I see you still have your hand raised. Do you have a follow-up?
No, sorry.
Okay.
I'll remove it now.
Let us move to Mose.
Question about fair minimum wages yesterday, following, let's say, the public consultation until now, and it was not clear to me. I mean, of course, not clear yet what will be the Commission's position. But when Marta now said that it favors, obviously, let's say, collective bargaining, then I would like to add that according to data available, I mean, most EU member states don't have a system for that, but they have in place what is called statutory minimum wages. And the conditions differ very much between the member states. So there have been, let's say, calls for EU to try somehow to harmonize that in some way. So my question would be then if that is still on the table or it remains to be seen, let's say, following the analysis of the responses from the member states. Thank you.
Thank you, Mose. Again, let me stress, and I think we've made it extremely clear with all the documents we have published on this issue in the first stage consultation, the second stage consultation, the initiative that will be put forward by the Commission will not recommend the introduction of statutory minimum wages in countries where these are autonomously negotiated by social partners. So this is extremely clear, and we have underlined that, I think, in the past, and we will do so in the future as well.
Thank you very much. Now let me
follow up.
Jose, very quickly, please, because we only have a few minutes left, and I think we said what you could say on the issue.
Yeah, but I think those countries, statutory minimum wages, they decide on them by collective bargaining. But that,
you see, somebody doesn't want you to ask a follow-up. We cannot hear your question, Mose. You're completely breaking up. And as we said, Mose, the Commission is going to come forward with a proposal. In due time, we will have ample opportunity to discuss both the context of the proposal once again and the specific proposal that the Commission is making. But of course, you can always contact Marta bilaterally to continue the conversation. I would like to come back to Mira, who had a question on Venezuela, which she cannot ask directly because she does not have access to a mic. Apparently, it's not working. The question is on the meeting of the High Representative with the ICG. It's on Venezuela, and she's asking Nabila whether we have an agenda of the meeting. Nabila, can you provide some information on this?
Can you hear me? Hi,
yes.
Mira. This is okay. We can actually confirm that the High Representative Vice President has called for the meeting, the ministerial meeting of the International Contact Group on Venezuela on the 17th of September. The ministerial meeting of this international contact group will be chaired, as you know, by the HRVP. He will be briefing the group on the latest contacts with the national actors. The group will discuss the latest political developments in Venezuela, as well as the humanitarian situation in the country, particularly in the context of the worsening COVID-19 pandemic situation.
Thank you very much, Nabila. We now try once again to go to Atanasio. Atanasio, you have the floor.
Thanks very much. Bonjour. So we heard the great proposal from some members of the European Parliament, which the High Representative agreed some hours ago in the plenary about stopping these explorations and looking for hydrocarbons in the Eastern Mediterranean, because it's not very much aligned with the Green European deal. So in this context, the context of the deal and the context of foreign affairs at the same time, did you ever officially propose to all three sites in the area a moratorium of these drillings and a substitution of this search for energy in the sea, as the High Representative said, with something else, with clean energy and incentives for green transition? Thank you.
Thank you. I think that would be a question for Peter.
Hi, Athanasios. Thank you very much. I would not repeat basically what HRVP said during the debate in the European Parliament. He outlined very clearly the position of the EU, how we see the issues in the Eastern Mediterranean, how we see the timelines and steps how to proceed. The members of the European Parliament also said what they think about this. On your specific question, in order to bring proposals on the table, you need to first have the partners at the table, start talking about the issues at hand. And the situation where we are today is the result of not trying to discuss the issues first and trying to advance in individual actions. So, as I said, in order to bring proposals on the tables, the basic precondition is to start the dialogue. And this is what all the efforts are focused on. And this is what the EU is expecting that we will be doing and following, as the High Representative outlined today in the EP debate.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you, Atanasio. Okay, we'll take one last question today from Eric Bonce. Eric, go ahead.
Bonjour, tu m'entends?
Absolument, vas-y.
Absolument, vas-y. Ah, très bien. Excuse-moi, je suis un peu en retard. J'ai encore une question sur la politique migratoire. Le gouvernement allemand vient d'annoncer qu'il va probablement reprendre 1500 réfugiés des îles grecques, peut-être de Moria, peut-être d'une autre île. Est-ce qu'il y a une réaction de la Commission européenne et est-ce qu'il y a une coordination européenne? En Allemagne, on parle beaucoup d'une Lösung, europäische Lösung, une solution européenne sur la question des réfugiés à Moria. Merci.
Merci Eric. Je passe la parole à Adalbert.
Bonjour Eric, merci beaucoup. Et effectivement, nous sommes pleinement en liaison étroite avec les autorités allemandes et nous accueillons très favorabement cette annonce de la part de l'Allemagne. Concernant une coordination européenne sur l'assistance à la Grèce et la solidarité avec les personnes affectées par cet incendie, je peux peut-être faire référence à une lettre qui a été envoyée conjointement par la commissaire Johansson et par le ministre Horst Seehofer aux États membres et aux autres États Schengen concernant justement la coordination européenne de la question de la relocalisation. Cette lettre a invité les États membres à une réunion de coordination pour discuter les transferts rapides à la fois d'enfants et jeunes gens non accompagnés qui ont été évacués de Moria et de familles avec enfants des îles grecques comme première étape dans cette urgence humanitaire. Avec le soutien financier du budget européen. Donc cette réunion de coordination aura lieu rapidement et nous allons, ensemble avec la présidence allemande, continuer à coordonner ces efforts.
Merci beaucoup Adalbert. Nous sommes maintenant arrivés à notre horaire limite pour le briefing d'aujourd'hui. Je vous remercie de votre participation. Donc demain, il n'y aura pas de briefing en raison du discours sur l'état de l'Union de la présidente. à la plénière du Parlement le matin. Et jeudi, nous aurons un briefing, mais qui durera une demi-heure, étant donné que ce briefing de midi sera suivi d'une conférence de presse du vice-président Timmermans et de la commissaire, Mme Simpson. Donc, nous vous invitons à nous rejoindre jeudi. Merci beaucoup.